Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Cleveland Browns post-game show with the final score, whatever the fuck it was, 30-16. That sounds about right. Browns gained a lot of yardage for them. I'm going to get the good news out of the way first. Crowell ran okay today. Coleman caught a long ball and dropped a sure touchdown pass. Njoku caught one in garbage time. But I want to focus in on something else. And maybe it's just me who notices these things, but I think it's well worthwhile being able to at least question things, because I don't think the people in the press will question this. The 3rd and 1 call in which Kaiser got sacked, all right, makes no sense. You're at 3rd and 1. You have the opportunity to draw closer. At 3rd and 1, you can run the ball twice to move the chains to get the first down and to keep the drive going. And instead, you run a ridiculous play action. The quarterback doesn't throw the ball away, and he's sacked. And the first thing you say is, what is Hugh Jackson thinking? What in the hell is on his mind? Why on 3rd and 1 with an inexperienced quarterback, when he's been able to run the ball well during the course of the game? Why do we get 3-yard quarterback sneak attempts at the end of halves, and on 3rd and 1s, we don't get running plays inside the tackles? Why? And some people say, well, Hugh's an idiot. I'm not so sure, because the CBS camera picked up on the sidelines right after that play. Cody Kessler was warming up. I want to ask a question now of the Browns organization. Why was Cody Kessler warming up after the failed 3rd and 1 play? I've got 2 potential answers for you, and you're not going to like either of them. The first one is, and it'll be proven one way or the other if this is the answer, is if Kaiser turns up in concussion protocol after the game or sometime Monday or something like that, then you know that Kaiser was being allowed to play with a concussion, which there's nothing surprising about that with the murderous owners of the NFL. Like I said at the half, he was sniffing ammonia, smelling salts, while going over the play sheet with Hugh Jackson after he was released from concussion protocol. And after a peculiar 3rd and 1 play, Kessler was warming up. The other possibility is that Hugh called a play and Kaiser again audibilized out of it. I want the fucking answer. And anybody who's a member of the press who has the fucking balls to ask this question, please do. Because it's one thing or another. Either the team committed a cardinal sin, allowing a guy with a concussion to come back out and play. And I know the excuse, but he passed the protocol. But you know, why was he in there in the first place? I'm sure that Kaiser had self-reported problems with his head. But he was back on the field. But the other one is more ominous. If Kaiser audibled out of Hugh Jackson's 3rd down call again, I'd fire him. I'd cut him. And I don't care who gets him. I don't care how much we owe him. Cut him. There is an answer to this question, and I simply want it answered. All right. With that said, Corey Coleman can't drop a sure touchdown pass. It's the last opportunity the team would ever have to score a touchdown. We know how that goes. You can't do that. But he did, like they all do. Ricardo Lewis, it's only fair that he got his drop in because he's got the worst case of dropsy I've ever seen in my life. I wish Ricardo Lewis would just wind up driving his SUV off a cliff so that we would never have to see him again. It's horrible. Watching this guy trying to play professional football, why he's even playing professional football. Well, my God, Greg Little's not playing professional football, and Little didn't have good hands, but shit, Little caught more passes than Ricardo Lewis. What the fuck? Why is he still on the roster? Are you going to play Kenny Britt or aren't you going to play Kenny Britt? You got to make up your fucking mind, Hugh Jackson. If you're going to allow him to sit around with a towel over his head and look disgruntled, why is he still on the team if you're not going to play him and then you're going to put him in? What is the story? What discipline are you meting out? What punishment are you meting out to the player? I have no idea. Because right after he's sitting around with the towel on his head, being a total dick on the sidelines, he's back in the game a quarter later. I don't understand any of it. What are the officials calling on Jabril Peppers? Well, it's simple. I explained it last week about the little kid I grew up with in Canton, Ohio, who lived next door to me, who is abused by everybody. The officials will always call these things at the most inopportune times against the Browns. And I can tell you, if they hadn't called a personal foul, they would have called a taunting just for him waving his hand in the air for making a good play, because the little Phoebe is not allowed to assert himself. What we know about the league is when you're a whipping boy, you're a whipping boy. And the Cleveland Browns are the ultimate league whipping boy. And you know something? Good. I hope it stays as long as Jimmy Haslam is here. I hope it stays as long as Sashi Brown and Hugh Jackson are here. They're all without testicles. My God. You wonder how a team gets exploited and taken advantage of by the league in these horrible calls week after week after week. They've earned it. That's why the organization has earned it. And I, for one, applaud the league. Keep making the calls, because until this team deserves some measure of respect, don't give it to them. You know, I'm so tired of people like Jimmy Haslam. Jimmy Haslam doesn't know how to run a fucking company. Jimmy Haslam just, you know, he just inherited something. He's got no discernible skill that I've seen. He's got no skill with people. He's got no skill with deriving confidence for the people who work for him. He cheats the people who are his customers. I mean, this guy, I don't get it. He has no discernible skill level because he has money. And he was a minority shareholder in the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he had his little foot in the door. You know, he's the ultimate fortunate son. And I'm so tired of the ultimate fortunate son scenario. So tired of it. I don't want him around. I don't want his imprint on the organization. That's why we're disrespected all over the league. It's why. It starts with him. You know, why does Hugh Jackson challenge the A.J. Green catch? Why does he challenge everything that has no chance of working? And then he chuckles about it afterwards. Well, I'm glad you're getting a good laugh out of it, you idiot, because you're going to be unemployed at the end of the year. And you know something? Everybody, the only thing I know that Cleveland will do for you is they will spin you around. First, they'll get you drunk on wine. Then they'll spin you around real fast, and then they'll let you walk crookedly into a drive-by shooting. That's what people in Cleveland are going to do for you, Hugh Jackson. Get out of here. God, enough of you. The whole attitude is just so fucked up. It's so dysfunctional. You can get all the yardage in the world between the 30s, but what difference does it make if you can't stick the ball in the end zone? And you can see a palpable change come over the team once they're in the red zone. They walk around like they got a stick broken up their ass. That's what they look like. They look like they're scared. And they are. They have no success. It's really a frustrating thing to watch. And of course, once you get that game to 23-16, you know the defense is going to lay down. You know they're not going to stop anybody. Because if they did, they'd actually have a chance to have the ball to tie the score. But then if that happened, Kessler would throw the interception that would end the game. Any way you look at it, it's hopeless, folks. It's totally hopeless. You're witnessing history with me in 0-16 season, but this is the worst 0-16 team in the history of professional football. Sorry. I mean, only people who watched the amazing Mets in their first year, back, what was it, 1962 or 63, the first year that the Mets were in New York. The people who watched that saw they were 40-120 for the season. That was, and even they won 40 games. With Marvelous Marv Throneberry and the horrible players that were on the New York Mets. The Cleveland Browns are 1-26. And on and on and on it goes. And the announcers can sit there and say all they want about, well, Kessler, he is seeing the Bengals for the second time and he looks better. And it's like, no. Fool's gold. Because he'll come out next week and throw 4 interceptions and just suck the big donkey dick. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. It's just so frustrating to have to watch a bunch of inept people trying to do something. Let's see who's in there. We've got Mogambi and Tony and Sloshy Clown, General Dog Wable, Million Meters. Yeah. Jamie Meter. If you would have bet on an injury for him or a stroke, I would have voted for the stroke. General Dog, this was a winnable game. If we had a competent O-line, quarterback, and OC, we'd win a lot. Yeah. Well, if the queen had balls, she'd be king. Sloshy Clown, what do you think of our team's execution? I know. Hopefully it's imminent. We're John McKaying today. What the fuck is Dilly Dilly, Wable asks? It's a part of a beer commercial, a Bud Light commercial in medieval times, and the expression of approval that they make to one another instead of harumph, harumph is dilly dilly. So, let's see what else. Million Meter says, I will run the team as long as Jimmy is in jail. Nobody deserves mercy in this organization. Nobody. Why is Gonzalez still here? Because he's not there. These are questions that I can only answer in general, Yeah. I want to say, Tony, and somebody's put up the Dilly Dilly commercial. Thank you. The explanation. We do appreciate that. I've never seen a coach purposely shoot himself in the foot like Hugh Jackson does. All right, Tony. High school Mike Penton and Pat Shermer weren't this bad. Yeah, they were. They're just, if you ate donkey shit 3 years ago, Tony, and today they fed you dog shit, you'd say, you know something? Really, that donkey shit wasn't that bad. Yeah, it was. It was donkey shit. It's all the same thing. Mike Penton, who was looking for father's approval. Pat Shermer, who had no discernible heartbeat. And Hugh Jackson. They all could be in the Wizard of Oz for different reasons. Mike Penton, if he had self-respect, he'd be looking with Judy Garland for self-respect. Pat Shermer would be looking for a brain, and Hugh Jackson would be looking for I don't know where to go with this. I don't know. What would Hugh Jackson be in The Wizard of Oz looking for? Maybe Pat Shermer wouldn't have a brain, but I don't know about Hugh Jackson. He'd be looking for consistency. I have no idea. LeBron says, how was your Thanksgiving turducken, Moo? Well, you just draw it up like this. Over here are the mashed potatoes. Over here are the yams. And boom, tough acting, tin acting. Yeah, I didn't have a turducken. Easy on the racial lines with Hugh. No, we're not talking about race. We're talking about ineptitude. We're talking about, I want to know whether Kaiser audibilized out of a 3rd and 1 call. And if that's the reason why Cody Kessler was warming up on the sidelines, or were they concerned that because he blanked out on the play that he was having the concussion symptoms? I have no idea. The cowardly lion, LeBron says, he'd be looking for courage. Bert Lars roll, right? Little Wizard of Oz trivia for you. Don't forget Romeo Crennel, the man at the front of the line of the buffet. But Crennel, at least at one time, was a good defensive coordinator. But as a head coach, boy, was he awful. And he was rotund. There's a man who could seriously mow down. He almost single-handedly closed the Golden Corral in Cleveland. He cost them so much money, it's unbelievable. Romeo did have the last decent team here at 10-6. Yeah. No. But again, what we have now, well, it's the donkey shit and the dog shit. But, the thing about Romeo was that he was so unable to deal with the blizzard of problems. But, that started from the beginning with Chris Palmer. Remember the runaway train? Well, that's what we've had in Cleveland ever since, is the runaway train. Once things go bad, nobody can stop the forward momentum of the runaway train. Yeah. I don't know. Carolina just beat the Jet. No, it's still going 32-27, a wild one. But McCown has no concussions. But Kaiser, we don't know whether he's got a migraine, a concussion, or whether the Browns are making it up. I have no idea. I have no clue. And the Browns are like Wile E. Coyote, million meters. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right about that. The Acme Explosive Company. And you know what's going to happen when in the hands of the Cleveland Browns. Is there anything positive from this game? No, it's just another loss. Because at no time do you ever believe that we're going to win a game. It isn't like we're ahead 27-10 and we blow it. No. Butch Davis, no, please. We're not going there. No. The guy planted spies in his own goddamn locker room. Fuck him. I don't even want to think about it. Hugh Jackson is at the podium. Yeah, right. We really played our lungs out of this one, and I'm not swimming in that lake. Doesn't matter about the number 1 draft pick. I keep telling you, Wabel, it doesn't matter. The people who are in place can't pick. They don't belong in business. They have no credentials. They have no business being in business. You know something? There are some people who are just the inherit the earth people. They were born into wealth. Not that they've done anything on their own, and that would be Jimmy Haslam. Look at them. They all look the same too, that kind of ineffectual. And you know how you know that they just don't have it? Is that, I can tell you a story back from my radio days. Sound like Woody Allen. We had ratings books that came out twice a year for the station ratings, and we had just worked our asses off to promote the radio station. The ratings came out, and we had the worst ratings book you could imagine. I mean, it was horrible. It was the worst one in the history of all of our 9.5 years in Flint, Michigan. It was bad. And it was devastating. I knew that information, and I had to pass that along to my staff, But what I knew was that if I showed a face to my people that I was devastated, they'd be devastated. The first thing that you know when you're in business is you've got to handle a situation aggressively. You cannot disappear on your people. If you expect your people to be on the front lines for you, you've got to be on the front line for them. But all of our owners, Randy Lerner, all these guys, they disappear. When the going gets tough, they have their tea and crumpets and they disappear. They're not accountable. They don't answer anybody. They don't talk to anybody. They're not seen. They're not mingling. They're not, nothing. They're invisible. That is the sign of a fortunate son, a person who does not know how to handle adversity. How in the fuck could you expect your football team to accept responsibility and to face adversity when you yourself, with all of your millions of fucking stolen dollars, Jimmy Haslam, that you can't do it yourself? DP Joe 6 is saying officials told Hugh Jackson that Jabril Peppers' helmet hit the wide receiver in the head, hence the flag. Jackson disagreed with the call and felt Peppers made the correct play and hit him in the chest. There was some helmet contact. But any other team doesn't get called for it. But the Haslam-led Browns will, every time. Every time. Dilly dilly. If I was you, I would have flipped out and been on the field after that call that ended the game. He shows no emotion because he accepts his lot in life, because you have an invisible owner, and the invisible owner is what allows the front office and the head coach to continue pointing fingers and to sabotage one another, right? It just makes you wonder. Oh, from Mary Kay, not the cosmetic person, but Cabbage Head. The Browns locker room is right next to the press conference room. A player was screaming in the locker room moments ago. Well, get me out of here! I'll give the money back. Just let me go. Okay. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. Guest 19 says, hire Josh McDaniels. Are we back to that again? Another person who was just one of the most hateful people in the league. We have to go through this again? Can't we forge new ground? I sure hope so. I don't want to keep going over these retread names that it's like, no. No, he's supposed to show the emotion on the field, not in the locker room after the loss, Wable. But it's all part and parcel of the same thing. The owner of the team is not accountable, and he doesn't know how to handle adversity. The players don't know how to handle adversity, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. That's the problem with the Cleveland Browns. And what I did, by the way, as far as the low ratings, I sat down and I said, here are the ratings. The overall number of people who were listening to the radio station actually went up. The problem is how long they were listening to the station dropped. And that is a representation of a small sample of people. If you believe the ratings of this radio station went down, you go out on the street and you ask anybody what radio station they're listening to, and it's ours. Believe me. And that is how I handled it. You handle something from strength and with certainty. And I said to the people, don't worry, we're going to continue promoting the hell out of it. And our commitment is to continue to promote the hell out of it. And we're going to go out, and for the next several months, we're going to sell on our reputation because we have a damn good one. Don't bring up Cower's name, please. I don't want to go through the head coach thing all over again as far as guessing who it's going to be. Please make it stop. And if somebody says John Gruden, I'll stop the show. Hire Manning and let him run with it. No. Why? Because he's got some Papa John's franchises. Make it stop, dear Lord. Hire somebody with credentials. Somebody who knows how to do the job. I'm just wondering what Bruce Brennan is saying. It's like, oh my God, It wasn't a player screaming in the locker room. It was me. My Bruce Drennan sounds almost like half Bruce Drennan and half the late Kevin Meaney. I don't understand this at all. I'm going to poke my eyes out. That's what I'm going to do. Poor Bruce. He has to go on the air and it's like, I don't want to talk about it. Aversion therapy. Aversion therapy. No, Ray Farmer did not have credentials, General Dog, because nobody hired him after us. You see, in the end, people might have a tough stay with the Browns, but if they were competent people, they would wind up succeeding somewhere else. But that's not happening to this organization at all. Okay? So we're not hiring people with credentials. Nope. Of course, I don't sit in on the interviews. I don't know how these people get their jobs. I have no idea. But it is kind of funny. Dilly. They seem to be consistently, it's like, well, it's either Kaiser we're going to go with or Mitch Trubisky. Yeah, it's like, great. We would have ended up with the mentor guy. Mentor. Hugh, we will win here one day. I truly believe that. But you're not going to be in that lake when we swim it, Hugh. You drowning piece of shit. General Dog said, didn't Bill Parcells tell? Oh, there's another name. Bill Parcells. Like, that's the be-all, end-all. Bill Parcells, it makes no difference. If you're hiring a name for the wrong position, we already found that out with Holmgren. A great field coach is not a general manager. A field coach who retires is looking for supplemental income. That's the kind of general manager that Holmgren was. Same thing with Parcells. These guys were really good field coaches in their day, but they're not qualified to do the other job. How many times do I have to say this over 13 years? My God. That's like saying, Corey Kluber's won the goddamn Cy Young twice. That's why I'm going to pinch hit him in the bottom of the ninth. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? He doesn't swing a bat. He throws a ball. Two different things. Hello, McFly. I want a person who has front office general management credentials. Somebody who brings in a group of people that can work functionally together. The Walrus, Cuckoo Cachoo, really killed this team, Bronx says. He is as responsible as any for taking a 6-10 team and turning it into a 1-16 team. No, the people who hired him who are responsible. Who has that and will come here? I'm telling you. The guy who was the general manager of Green Bay, Wolf is his name, Ron Wolf, he has a son. He has a son who was working from the time he was 13 years old with his father in professional football, and he is the young man you go after. And you do whatever you can to get him into the organization, because with him comes father's experience and connections to hire people to make sure that his son is successful. The son has an advantage. He's been in football surrounded by a group of people, and he's been groomed to do a job. This is all pending on an interview, folks. You're asking me what I would do. I would not go over a bunch of lukewarm, leftover people. There is no reason to go over a group of failed people. And you're right, Guest 19. You know why it's bullshit? Because you're not going to get somebody who is a proven winner, because they're employed already. It's like, is this what you look like, Guest 19? Is this what you look like? Do I look stupid to you? Do you think I don't realize that our options are limited? Of course they're limited. That's the limitations that ownership has put in here. That's the problem. Oh, we got to get somebody. Well, you're not going to get somebody who's a knockdown, drag out, certain success. But I don't want people with a history of failure. I'm sorry. Nope. I don't want that. I want people who are familiar with the position, who've been surrounded by it their entire lives, and who are ready to make the jump. I'm not saying that Wolf would come, or the Wolf's son would come here even. I'm not saying that. But, you know, that's the truth. If you're waiting for the perfect candidate, you know, everyone's like, I want Bill Cowher. I want John Gruden. I want somebody. I want somebody who's won a Super Bowl. I want, you know, it's like, I want a 12-inch dick. I want. What are you going to get in reality? Every week I go on the air and I tell you as a business person what I would do. And you know something? 9 times out of 10, I'm right about this stuff. Now, the stuff that I'm not right about is when it comes to play calling. I'm not a great strategy guy. Definitely not a good draft guy. Although I did want Carson Wentz over Jared Goff, but what the hell? We would have taken either of them, correct? Well, no, we didn't. But I'm saying I'm not a good draft guy. But when it comes to a business person, knowing how to assemble a team, I'm damn good at that. And Gruden was very overrated because he just inherited something that was already built. I want Tony Dungy. Tony Dungy believes in God, and God doesn't want him to come to Cleveland. You're not going to get people who have prior success. And the old names are not the future of the NFL anyway. And it's the same thing we're seeing in the NBA, you know? It's like the coaching merry-go-round. How happy can you feel with your organization if somebody said, well, you know, the Sacramento Kings are going to be saved because we've just named Mike Brown as the head coach. And then you can see people in Sacramento jumping into the ocean and committing suicide. I don't know. You know what you get when in the NBA? It's the merry-go-round. The only way you know that you're really bad is if you're Jeff Van Gundy, because you're ugly, you're bald, and you still don't have a fucking job because nobody would hire you after you ruined Patrick Ewing's career. Okay? Right. Guest 19 says, I wanted Wentz, Julio Jones, and Malik Hooker. I think we all wanted some good players if we had good picks. We just didn't get what any of us wanted. DP Joe 6, more interesting college football coaching rumors. Sources with knowledge of the Texas A&M University search tell me that Jimbo Fisher has a deal to be the next coach with the Aggies. Fisher will coach one final game at Florida State University, but not the bowl game should they become eligible. I'm told that Texas A&M University contract will be at least 5 years, $7.5 million. That's a good move by Jimbo Fisher to get the hell out of FSU before they rip his scrotal hair off. Meter said, I didn't want Wentz. Boy, was I wrong. Yeah, you know, I analyzed Wentz, and you know what I was scared about? Because, I said the guy's got the size, he's got the arm. But what we don't know is playing at where? North Dakota State or wherever the fuck he played? I mean, it's like, he wasn't seeing the speed of the game, you know? But again, you can't tell that. If you're just drafting athletes at the quarterback position, you don't take into account the requisite necessities of the job, which is to process information quickly. Carson Wentz obviously has it, the ability to learn a playbook. It's one thing we heard is that he was very smart, that he could digest a playbook. We was wondering if he was too slow or whether he would be able to process the speed of the NFL game. And Byron Scott, there's another good example, a guy who, I didn't want him in Cleveland after what he did in New Orleans. His team quit on him. And remember the playoff 52-point loss? I mean, yeah, they quit on him. So, I don't know. I don't know. The NBA, the coaching candidates go around, and you don't see anybody new coming in, and I'm tired of the same regurgitated names coming up. We have to forge a path, but the path we have to forge cannot come from people who have past tenure issues with front offices in their last head coaching gig. They cannot be solely determined on the basis of minority hiring practices. They have to be able to get along with the people above them in the food chain and below them in the food chain. These are things that have to be done. General Dog says, I said Paul DePodesta has to go on Reddit and got roasted. Yeah, well, why would DePodesta know anything? I mean, DePodesta wanted to prove himself in another sport, and we were dumb enough to do this. I mean, that's kind of the way that plays out. It's unfortunate. If I'm going to take a chance on a young guy, I'm going to take a chance on a young guy who honestly has been in the football game, been in the professional football game. I'm not going to hire a goddamn college coach for a man's job. I'm not going to put somebody in that position here. It is a hard thing to guess right on personnel. And hiring the right people to run your business when you're Jimmy Haslam and you don't know how to do it yourself is really tough, because I can't relate to that. I managed my own radio properties. It's the reason why I owned one market at a time. I mean, I'd be a lot wealthier today if I had figured out a strategy, honestly, to run like 10 different radio markets at the same time. Oh man, I'd have been so wealthy. Shoot, dilly. But no. I had to be in the one city because I was the guy who ran the operation. I lived in the community. I got to know the merchants of the community. I did not want to run my properties via remote control. I wanted to be a local presence. That was very important to me. I spent my money in local businesses, and I asked local businesses to spend their money with me. Jimmy Haslam is a guy who has absolutely no credibility to have any knowledge on how to assemble a football staff. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that he was the owner, his considerations should be bypassed completely because his instincts are obviously terrible. Who would take a shot on a bunch of people who've never done a job before? Only somebody who thinks they can pull a rabbit out of a hat. Well, you got to have experience and knowledge in what you're doing, and that's where it all starts and ends. That's it for me. I'm done today. I'm coming back next week. I'm in for this 0-16 thing so much, and we'll all do the church lady dance. In fact, I'll stand up and I'll do the church lady dance the day these people get fired. I promise you, live on camera, I will do the superiority dance. That's the Data Carvey's church lady dance. Right here, without swiveling my hips, I will do the dance. We will have a party together, dilly, when all of these people are gone. Now, there's two ways you can do it. You can just exercise your right of firing somebody, or if you could do it the Jimmy Haslam way, which is, fly him into Vegas and have engine trouble and have the thing go down. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this edition of the Boohead Radio Postgame Show. Thank you so much for your support. I do appreciate it. And we'll be talking again tomorrow afternoon, about 6 o'clock in the evening. And we'll have more on Moohead Radio, the weekly program. Until then, hasta la vista, Pasture Heads. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye-bye.